that off. So instead, we are going to go into game number 3 on Gettysburg, which is a really good game as well. So let me know when you're in there, Snute, and we will get it going.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. I'm ready.
You ready? All right, 3, 2, 1, play. All right, guys, so we are already looking here at game number 3 here between Snute and Stats. If you're watching on YouTube, I did just cut the video just before this moment. So this is part 2 of today's episode with Snute talking through his games against Stats here from Blizzcon, round of 16. The score was 1-1 at this point. This was quite a good game. While we're just looking at the early game here, if we miss something, we can always talk about that in the game or rewind or whatever. But I did have a bunch of questions that are a bit more up to date. In future, I really want to do these sort of shows right after the tournaments whenever possible. Unfortunately, I was very busy the last month. So there's a lot of 3.8 questions, which everyone is clamoring to ask you, Snute. So first of all, a question for Snute from Heigstrom. He says, a lot of High Master players are saying that mass carrier style is impossible for Zerg to beat once Protoss gets to 5 or more carriers. And the only way for Zerg to win is to take absolutely no damage in the early and mid game and to do a Hydra timing around 8 minutes 30 to 9 minutes before too many carriers get out. It's a tricky build in particular. I've been seeing is some adept pressure into the DT Archon drop into Phoenix while expanding to 4 bases and then straight into mass carriers. But I don't see pros complaining about this. It's only in Masters 1 and Masters 2 where I've really been seeing people complaining, saying they can't beat it. I think with the Hydra range being reverted, it's going to get even harder to beat. What do you think about this? Is there any secret to defeating it?
No, I think everything that was said here is also very valid at the GM level. I don't think it's any different at all, and I think the build order sequence that was described is a very common issue that players face, and it's also true that if you fall behind in the mid game, then playing against carriers can be very difficult. Now, I've been a little bit lazy these past few days when it comes to watching VODs and things, but I've been trying to track the development, so to speak, against the carrier style, and so far there doesn't seem to be a clear answer except for the Hydra timing that was mentioned here in the question. But that's of course very dependent on being ahead in economy a little bit, or at the very least in a good position, somewhat even. So what I've seen to work this far is just either some circling corruptor styles or the mass Hydra style. I haven't seen that much successful Viper play, although I think Scarlet was able to pull off some stuff using Hydralisks and Vipers, zoning out High Templar. But it's a very complicated situation, and I feel that once Protoss has a lot of carriers, well past 5 carriers, it definitely becomes somewhat unwinnable for Zerg. I don't know, it's a very tough spot to be in as Zerg right now, and I think we just need to be a little bit more patient and see if maybe something can be worked out using Spore Crawlers or Infestors or something else, because right now Mass Hydra I feel is pretty mapped out. If you're very far ahead, you can close out carriers before they become too strong. And Corruptors work in a little bit of a similar fashion. If they have Void Rays, you usually lose. But if they don't, then there's a window that you can strike for sure.
Nerve Shocker says, what about mass mutas and constant base trade play and just never engaging? And I just to quickly jump in on my end, I would say
against the carriers.
Yeah, I'll let you answer
I
that
think
one,
it's,
actually.
yeah, I think it's not so bad. If you can get to 8 gas Corruptor muta, then that might be a good way to just stop the carriers from happening in the first place. It's actually something that I thought about, but I'm not sure if the map pool is that friendly towards it, but definitely perhaps
Core Carnage? Core Hole Carnage would make that work, right?
The what?
Core Hole Carnage. You remember that map?
Core Hole Carnage Knockout? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember that map. I didn't play it a whole lot. Whirlwind and Van might be good maps for that style. The Muta Corruptor style. Maybe even Daybreak.
So do you think if it's super high level, it's just a bit too hard to kind of abuse the immobility? Do you think maybe on a map like Vani, dropping on the back base is a potential way to just kind of pulling them apart? Or do you think, like, technically it's like, well, yeah, you could make that work, but if the Protoss players get used to it, if they're like scouting well, they should be able to block it?
Yeah, I think if they scout well, for example, going Mass Hydra and using a Nidus in the back, I think that can be blocked very easily by a proper recall. Although, yeah, I think recall should be able to solve that pretty easily. But something like a fake Nidus and then hitting the front can be good. But it's very map dependent. Hydras and Vanai, for example, they are a bit slow to cross the map.
Oh yeah. They take a little while to get over there, to say the least. All right, well, thank you very much for discussing carriers there with me, as so many people were asking about that. So let's talk about the game. We've already missed quite a bit of the action, so how about we just jump back to about 2 minutes?
Yep, that sounds good, because this map was actually a lot more complex in the opening. So I'll be at 2 minutes in a little bit, and I'm going to be pausing. Let's see.
Just let me know when you get there.
All right, I'm at 2 minutes sharp.
3, 2, 1, and play. Now, to start things off, he blocked your natural. He rocked up with a probe. You immediately went and took your third. So you continued with your hatch gas pool game plan.
Yep.
Do you think this is just your preferred response, so you can pretty much do the same game plan? It's just you've got to rally your drones a little bit further. Does this annoy you a lot? What are your thoughts?
It doesn't really annoy me a lot. It's a very standard way to do things when your natural gets blocked, and it's what I'm very comfortable doing, because especially on Gettysburg you have 2 ramps, so it's a little bit difficult for adepts to move up into your third base and the main as well. So the only problem is the transfer of the drones becomes a little bit. It takes a little while longer, but except for that, everything is pretty much no problem, because you have a queen in each base and you have 2 circlings in each base, and that's actually enough to fend off a single adept. So no worries there. It's very well practiced and very standard. So I was used to this situation happening.
All right, and at this point here, it looks very standard. You've pulled off gas after ling speed. You're starting a third queen reasonably early in your main base to head down to that third base in your natural, whatever we want to call that. I feel like we need a specific term for that. And you don't really know what's going on at this point. Your overlord's poking around. We can really see you're kind of looking to try to get a bit of information. You see the gateway timing. What does that tell you?
I saw the second gateway, but I also saw the absence of production in the gateway. So I know that there's a high chance of gas being spent elsewhere, because it took a while for this second adept to start in the gate wall off, and because of that I was able to assume that there probably would be some sort of tech behind it. But I'm actually putting down a roach warren, so I'm not entirely sure if this is Twilight or Stargate just yet, and that's why I'm trying to play as safe as possible. But this overlord in the bottom was kind of lucky. I was able to see the oracle actually flying in a straight horizontal line, and because of that I was able to pull my second queen from my now natural, the middle base, into my main, and this is going to be a perfectly blocked oracle defense because of it.
This is like a full queen rotation there, yeah, where your third queen
so
comes to your natural as well, right?
2 drones lost. Yeah. That was not necessary, but I built a spore in the third base immediately as well. And even if one oracle hits you, you don't know what type of follow-up there is. In the production tab there's a void ray, but I didn't know that, so there could also be a second oracle on the way. And because of that, I think it's important to get the spore in each base.
Yeah.
Because you want to spread your queens back again. You want to have them injecting and doing queen things, so it's very nice to build that extra spore. But when I saw the void ray, I knew that it would be safe to I didn't have to worry that much about double oracle, for example. So I lose the overlord, but I also when I scouted the oracle, I did the same thing as on Apotheosis and went straight into the chamber for the quick +1 melee, and from there I just tried to play standard and try to account for things. So opening wise, this game is very similar to Apotheosis, but because the map is smaller, I took a little bit more damage than I would in Apotheosis. My natural was blocked, and the oracle also killed a few drones.
And those little things do start to add up, because you did have such a crisp opening. I think the Roach Warren as well, right? Because you got the vision so early on Apotheosis, the Stargate having to be in the wall, you just, see the Stargate, I see the natural, like you had absolute vision over his entire natural and his entire natural wall off with that one overlord so early. Whereas this game, that safety Roach Warren, it might not seem like a lot, but it is 200 minerals effectively, right? Like it's a drone and 150 minerals. So it was something where you were able to skip that. And even those little edges, like, okay, 2 unnecessary drone kills, a Roach Warren going down about 2 minutes earlier this game than in the Apotheosis game, doesn't sound like a lot to some players. Even GM players will be like, it doesn't matter, I'll just do that every game anyway. But at your level of play, I find those little edges, they really start to add up to a lot.
This is definitely where the mistakes start happening, because I droned way too hard, because there's going to be a lot of pressure, and I did a decent job of scouting for proxies around the map, but I didn't see the timing of the third base until a little bit later. So I was actually going a little too high on the drone count, and I'm about to be hit by some very heavy pressure. And I know this is coming by now. I see, like right now, I get to check on the third as well. I see how few probes there are, but still, I get hit in main. I don't see this prism, and from here, it's just the adept pressure, and it's all full crisis mode from here, just trying to defend everything as well as possible.
So I'm just leaving this on your camera so we can see kind of how you rotate around. He's also got this dirty stasis trap attempt in the main.
Yeah, I see that one, and I'm able to break that one actually, but still, these adepts, they trade very well, so I should have had a few more units. Most of my units towards the end there were actually in the eggs, and simply positioning everything right now is a little bit difficult. And as you can see, I'm losing a ton of drones right now, down to 22 drones down, and a lot of the time this attack is actually just capable of ending the game immediately. Fortunately, I was able to hang in there for this one, and my fourth base is mining happily also. But this is way more damage than one is supposed to take. And if I had done a better job of scouting my opponent's third base, then I definitely would have had a lot more Zerglings prepared, for example, a lot more Banelings prepared, and then it's a completely different game. So I took more damage than I had to take in this game. And it's very difficult to split everything apart and be the right place.
I think this is the moment where I always see this question, whether I'm streaming or we've just watched an important tournament game. Because we've seen people die to Adepts a lot, and we've seen a lot of people get emotional about Adepts because we've all experienced this somewhat helpless feeling when they're in your base. So there's two things I want to talk about now with you. The first one is I just want to very quickly reemphasize what you were saying there. It wasn't you messed up in the response to the Adepts. I mean, you can always be slightly more perfect at running drones from 4 different mineral lines at once, but it's an impossibly hard situation to do everything perfectly, and there's simply no perfect response there. You didn't have enough units to kill the Adepts. So not only are you dealing with units which can be in 2 mineral lines at once, or 3 mineral lines, but you simply can't shut them down, even if you were on top of them, until all your units popped out of your eggs, and then there's this slow cleanup process. So this isn't like oh, how the hell do you beat Adepts? It's how do you not get completely surprised by Adepts and be massively outnumbered in army supply? You mentioned it was all just about scouting that third base. That was the big tell. So for anyone being surprised by these sort of attacks, scouting that third base, I guess, is the biggest thing. The last thing I want to talk about is I want to go back to when that attack first started. So 7 minutes 30, and let's sync up there, because I think this is really valuable. And this is something where, even earlier than 7:30, I guess, 7 minutes. This was a drawn-out Adept attack. It was in your base for a long time. Yeah, 7 minutes.
Yeah. 7 minutes starting?
1 second, sorry. I clicked on 7 minutes. It was like, yeah, we'll take you to 7 minutes. And then it just paused on 5:45. I was like, good job, replay.
Yeah. Just tell me. I think it begins roughly 6:30.
Yeah, 6:30.
Yeah.
So while we pause there, before we actually play it, if you go to everyone's vision, we can kind of see the setup, right? There's the Void Ray and a bunch of Adepts on the front. The Void Ray's cleared the vision to make sure you didn't see the Adepts walking across the ramp. And then he's also going to hit the main base as well. Now, ideally, if you had enough units out right now, say, what do you think an appropriate number of units would be if you kind of stopped droning like 13, 15 roaches out right now?
Yeah, I think if you have 15 roaches and 20 Zerglings, then you should be pretty set to deal with everything from there. Like if you take everything that's in my production tab, and if you add that with the units on the field, I think we reach a very solid count to deal with this initial force. Maybe a little bit on the low end actually, but it's all about having those preemptive units out. And yeah, I only had 6 roaches and 6 in production right now, and 8 Zerglings and 10 Zerglings in production. A couple of Banelings as well, but I think having, say, 16 roaches out is a very, very strong starting point to deflect this.
Do you try to engage those really far, kind of out front your base on the edge of creep to force the shade out early? Where do you want to set up with those roaches?
That actually depends, because these roaches are very slow. if your roach count is very high, then it can be very beneficial to move towards the bridge to force a shade. But in general, I find it just staying close to your mineral lines is usually where you want to be. And it's also important to not move too much in the dead space between the bases. Like, it's very strong to kind of use the roaches as spine crawlers and not move them too far away from the bases themselves, because the adepts can shade a lot faster than roaches can catch up to them. So it's more about using the roaches as kind of an anchor, just like spine crawlers, and rather use speedlings to catch up with any sort of transfer imbalances of the army. Like, if the Protoss goes from being 50-50 to being 100-0 somewhere else, right, then of course you want to have all your roaches there, but then you have the warpins as well that you need to account for. So then all of a sudden it's not 100-0 anymore, but it's more like a 80-20 distribution. So it's usually beneficial to have at least some units in each base, because then the adept AI doesn't go ham on the drones, and Protoss has to use a lot more skill to actually deal damage to the drones. So it's all about staying on top of your injects and making reinforcing speedlings to actually catch whatever is moving, and use the roaches to fight the large masses of adepts.
Awesome. All right, well, let's just watch this now. So you ready on 6:30?
Yep.
All right, so on your camera is what I'm going to be watching in the stream. I don't know if you want to do that as well, but 3, 2, 1, and play.
So now I scouted the third base. I see that there's like 8 probes, which is very low.
Can you talk us through what you do with your drones here as well? While you're
I'll try. So right now I rerouted the Spore. That's maybe not the most important thing. Now I just try to hit the adepts with the banelings. They blow up, they don't really do too much, so I pull the drones away at my third base. And now I try to get close to the prism, trigger the stasis thing, and now I just pull the drones away from the adepts, because I don't have the units to fight them. So as long as the adepts are there, I don't really want to be mining too much. And now I see that the roaches are in the natural, so I just move the drones back to work. And then I transfer away from my main also, because it's full of adepts. So where the adepts are, you want to pull the drones away from the line. And yeah, just a fake shade there, so I want to go back into my main. And now I'm just panicking and being a little bit nervous, of course, but these roaches are doing a good job of fighting the adepts in the main. And then the shade goes over here. I try to catch them using Zerglings. Now I should have definitely sent a few roaches back to the main again, because that's where the units are going to be coming from. That's the point of the warpins, but I'm too busy just chasing the adepts to the top. So I look at my main, and the shade goes up there. Gotta pull the drones again. It's very mechanically taxing, and I see that the prism is going down, so that's nice. That's kind of the cue for me to go back into droning. But right now I'm just stressing out and having this one-eye syndrome a little bit. And it's a very... yeah, this was a very rough moment for me, because I knew that I was somewhat prepared, but I missed my window a little bit. So, but yeah, that's it basically.
That's a really
there are
good...
many.
Yeah.
There are many small ways, small things that you have to do, but yeah, stress is a big factor also. It's very hard to get this right.
That's StarCraft, and this situation is so fast-paced. And I mean, just to hammer home with the drones running around, whenever you're in one of these crazy, messy situations where your opponent's in multiple mineral lines, it is, like, I think the hardest situation in StarCraft, hands down. Especially if you don't have, like, a clear answer to just shutting down their army. It's just, oh, my army is not in position. I just need to get it back in position and try to keep my workers alive. It's like, I don't actually have enough units out. I need to just try to keep drones alive while defending 3 locations and constantly repositioning.
You gotta do a lot of things at once. And especially when you don't have the Zerglings, like, if you're a little bit... If the majority of your composition is locked in roaches, then it's very difficult to stay on top of the moving adepts. So it's definitely very good to be a little speedling heavy. It can actually yield good results a lot of the time, but it's a very fine line. Ravager Ling deals very well with pressure like this, but you also need a healthy mix of roaches, and at the end of the day, it's all about the precautionary units and not overdroning. That's the #1 way to defeat this.
Awesome. Of course, the camera hotkeys as well. One point just for people out there, if you're wondering how Snute runs his drones around so consistently, camera hotkeys are basically... The reason pros go on about them so much and, like, can't live without them is specifically for these positions, right? Like, you simply can't keep up running your drones between your bases if you're not using camera hotkeys there, right?
You can try to use the minimap, but in general I find camera hotkeys to be very useful. I think it's the fastest, the most reliable way to jump between the bases. So I definitely recommend using and learning camera hotkeys. It helps a lot in situations like this.
Cool. I really want to thank you as well, Snute. By the way, anyone, if you guys do appreciate Snute being on, any tips you do send through during the show will be going straight to Snute, and also you can tip to him directly. I've put his link to his Twitch tip button there on in the Twitch chat. So guys, a massive thanks to anyone who does tip towards Snute being on here, and especially because you are willing to go over a game which you lost in such an important tournament. And I just want to say it's awesome to have you, so calmly just talk about all the games and give us so much insight. And I think it's something where the community is very lucky to have players like yourself coming on the show. We had Showtime yesterday as well, talking about some of his games.
That's cool. It's cool. Anytime, man.
It's a rare opportunity, like, I don't know, a couple years ago, I don't think we really ever had pros kind of going over their games like this, so I just think it's really sick to actually have this insight. So I'll have a hunt for some more questions now. I guess, did we even finish looking at this game? I guess we didn't really, did we? But
no, there was more things happening. Like I tried to get back
right
into this game and go to my Ravager Ling Baneling mid game, and there was a huge attack at my fourth base, which I barely didn't hold because there was a War Prism attack in my main at the same time, so I had to pull a lot of my forces. I took a little bit of a risk here and just said that it would be fine to let my fourth go because I had a fifth almost complete. And from here, I just tried to hang in there with the standard Ravager Ling Bane mid game. And I wasn't actually feeling too bad when I played in this situation because I had a lot of confidence in this composition. But Stats made some really nice moves that made this game very difficult for me. And the mutas that I had on Apotheosis, I felt like the game was so tense that I didn't feel comfortable about actually making them. So this Prism in the top right actually caused me a lot of trouble.
You actually did an amazing job of getting back in this game,
I
considering
so too,
that damage. Like, this is incredible that you were even in supply at this point. It's still definitely nowhere near as good as your Apotheosis game, but I'm just incredibly impressed because I remember I've watched this replay before, last night, and then before we went live, and then we were so focused on the Adept stuff, I was like, oh yeah, we've done looking at the game now. And I'm like, wait a second, there's another 10 minutes of this game where you actually make it incredibly close. So your Muse are now about to come out. Do you feel like it's just a bit too late and the Warp Prism's already kind of pinned you back for too long?
The thing that bothers me at this stage is the center base from Stats because he did usually on Apotheosis, for example, the fourth base was not this established. When the geysers are down, when the cannons are already down, when the stalker count is this high, then Protoss is closer to max, and that was not the case on Apotheosis. So I was a little bit uncomfortable. At the same time, though, I was very happy just to be alive and still be in this game because the depth pressure was so insane. But I still wanted to believe and give it a go here and see if I could make something happen with Ravager Ling Baneling because I've done some really sick things with that composition before. So from here, I knew it would just be about the macro and control battle. So I just, at this stage, I have +2, and I just kind of want to see where this goes with this composition. That's why I'm making this poke towards the third here. And I see all the cannons, which sucks, of course. And
otherwise,
still,
that would
though,
be
I
a
see
dead
his
mineral
army.
line, right?
Yeah,
I
still see army. His army is a little bit off position, so right now I'm actually feeling very good about this move. Like, I'm killing a lot of probes, which is nice. No, it's not the biggest deal, but I can also see that there's a lot of stalkers. Maybe if I'm lucky, I can force a lot of Archons to morph rather than being High Templar. And I tried to poke here on the right side also, but it's a time where you can't exactly move in because you have to wait for your speedling reinforcements. I had 82 circlings in the production tab, so right now I just gotta take things easy. And I think this is probably the part of the game that confused me the most. Probably the part that I didn't expect Stats to play the way he did. These storms caught me off guard, but they still didn't kill that much. So I think I actually dodged those storms very beautifully. I took a lot of damage on my links, but those were 4 storms, and they didn't really kill that much, so I was very happy taking that trade. And now, Stats is about to step on creep, and I'm getting a really sick sandwich going, so at this point I was actually rather confident. I was like, this might actually be my way back into the game. But I think perhaps this fight is where things started going wrong. Because my banelings get zoned out to the top right. I'm watching my camera right now, and all my banelings get hit by the storms. And Stats just takes this really amazing fight. And at the end of this, I was so shocked because I didn't realize where my army actually went to, and it turns out he just took a really sick engagement with the storms that he had. And this is why you're kind of on the clock against Protoss if you play Ravager Ling Bane, because if you don't have the money to remax, like if I had 150 Zerglings in production right now, that would be a great thing, but I don't. So I was just too far behind in the economy, and this was just an amazing attack by Stats. He just had too many storms, too many Archons, and he attacked at 200.
Let's go back and look at that fight one more time, because I really think the fights are very technical. And just while we set up just before that big engagement on creep, there is a question from Got Quail. He says, and this just ties in with what you were saying, right? You're kind of on the clock with this star. Like, you do want to stop Protoss getting to late game, and that's specifically because of the strength of the Tempest at countering Broodlords and Immortals at countering Ultralisks, right? Like, your Hive tech is not really something which you want to use, right?
Yeah, and also storm countering the mass banelings to some extent, and also 200 can be a bit tough to break, even using a lot of mutas, for example. So Protoss army just becomes very strong.
Yeah. So basically, you just choose to basically win the game in the mid game, right? Gotquail says that, is there a late game plan? He says, do you ever go for Hive if Sats defends the aggression? Or is it always just focus on this mid game, try to, take good fights, keep trading and really win here?
I think in this game, going to Hive might be an option, but I was so scared of him attacking into me, which he did, so I don't regret my decision staying on lair tech, because he did attack into me. So it's a bit of a risk. If you want to gamble on going for Broodlords in a situation like this, that's fine, but you also got to be very careful about the attacks that might hit you.
All right, so
just amazing force fields. Yeah, I'm ready to look at this fight again.
Sync up on 1420?
Yeah, it was just such a sick fight by Stats, and I got some things to say about this fight.
Well, let's put it on slower speed, or normal speed is the slowest one.
Yeah, normal.
And I'm just going to have this fight zoomed out for the chat. So 1420, tell me whenever you're ready, and I'll hit play.
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, so now the Archons are advancing on my creep, but one major issue is that the majority of my banelings are locked in on the right side. And also, if you look at my third base, I actually have a lot of units stuck there for no real reason, and the fight commences with basically 70% of my army missing. And those Ravagers take a lot of shots before the main fight actually begins, and having all my banelings split on the right-hand side is actually a huge issue, because so many of them die to Storm here, and you definitely want to have your banelings coming in from multiple angles, like we saw in Apotheosis. There was an actual sandwich. And this blink back from Sats as well saved a lot of his Stalkers, but most of my Ravager buffer and Zergling buffer had already died at this point, so just having all my banelings in one clump, all stressed out from just one angle, that's not the way to go about this. You want to have at least a two-way split to move command your banelings in from.
I'm going to take it back and just kind of rewatch that. We don't need to be synced up while we keep talking about it. There's also just the small things like that, right? Those banelings being, your army being just slightly disjointed. A lot of your Zerglings got trapped behind baneling cocoons here on your 5th/4th base, just behind the engagement as well. We see a lot of Zerglings there. And these Ravagers going down, you mentioned, your Ravagers take some big hits. And that's so important, right? Because normally you go in with your Ling Bane, you kind of trade out a lot of the army, but the kind of idea is for the Ravagers to hopefully stay alive, right? So you can pull them back, and then they're dishing out damage the whole time. They get off another round of Corrosive Vials, then they pull back and join up with the reinforcement of Zerglings, right?
Yeah. What happened in this engagement was that the Ravagers ended up awkwardly going in first, and that's the opposite of what you want to do. You want the Banelings to go in first from multiple angles so that they don't get stormed, and after that the Ravagers and Lings are supposed to go in and clean up. But in this fight, it was the opposite. The Ravager buffer just died initially, and that's why this engagement looked so different from the one on Apotheosis. Stats, of course, had a little bit more army just in terms of numbers, but that was the main thing. If you lose your Ravagers initially, then that's not a good thing. Of course, sometimes you might want to delay the fight by going for Corrosive Vials and firing warning shots and stuff. But a lot of the time, it's better to keep the Ravagers back and then send the Banelings in.
Awesome. I mean, that's
But
some pretty great
everything happens
analysis.
so fast, you know. It's just
Yeah.
so fast, and you gotta position everything so well in advance. So
That's the beauty of
sometimes
StarCraft,
stuff like
right?
this happens.
It's impossible to play perfectly, and you were under a lot of pressure this game because of all those things we talked about before. You'd done an amazing job to kind of get yourself back in a position where if you took the
Yeah, the army
sickest fight
supply was so
ever,
even.
it's like you still had a chance here, right? I still think he was kind of favored here, even though there was a lot of stalkers in his army, just because it's, you know, such a dense army, that Protoss army. But you know, you had to take such a good fight because of how that early adept pressure went. So a pretty damn impressive game from you, man. And I think that's going to about round up our analysis of this game. So we'll just quickly see if there's one or two more questions we can answer more generally. While I'll just leave this game on as eye candy, we'll go back and watch a few points of that. So I will split this into 3 VODs. So, okay guys, welcome to part 3 of the daily number 95 with Snute. We've just finished analyzing games 1 and 3 from Blizzcon of Snute vs. Stats, and now we're just going to answer a couple of questions to round out the episode while I throw on some of that game 3 just as eye candy for us all to stare at. So let's take a look through chat. Let's see what good questions I can find while I put this game on for you guys on Snute's beautiful vision. So, there in Twitch chat, we've got a question from Sturmgot. He says, regarding the mid-game opening pressure, is it a good idea to go for burrow when you know adepts will be coming so you can save your drones more easily? So no doubt a TLO fan there in Sturmgot. Sturmgot's a good guy, he streams a bit as well. What do you think about getting burrow to help burrow your drones?
I think pulling the drones away with just selecting all of them and moving them away serves the same purpose. It's a bit